Okay, this is the OSRA Daily Scrum for Monday, January 19th, 2015. Here we have Andre, Craig, Christian, Viv, and myself. Let's do a quick scrum and then move on to the retrospective for Sprint 9. Andre, let's start with you.
Yeah, hello. I joined Christian yesterday, and he showed me how he refactored the facade approach, the partner controller using the facade. So that's the only thing that I have. I don't even know how to call this, but that I witnessed.
Okay.
that has relation to OSRA. So yeah, nothing else happened.
We also did the homework. Don't forget about it.
Yeah, definitely. We did the homework too. That was surprisingly. I mean, if you do it properly, like doing all the tests and trying to do test-driven development and test-driven location of the bugs in the application, that takes a long time. So yeah.
Were they using the typo again?
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
And that was quite impressive. The sheer amount of code. We did this on Cloud9 on this cloud web service, and it took like the whole 215 megabytes of RAM that Cloud9 allows you to run this typo blog. So
yeah, it's pretty comprehensive from what I remember.
Yeah, it was huge. Yes.
Okay, well, Christian, let's go to you then, since we talked about the facade already.
So, besides the facade, today I had time to work on OSRA, and I started on the sponsor create, sponsor show view and actions, and then moved on to the edit and update actions and view for the sponsor. And that's about it so far.
Okay. You're planning to continue working on sponsor?
Yes, of course. I'm also almost done with the update and edit. Just have to write a little bit of tests.
Okay.
And I don't know, the edit and the update is very closely related to the new and create. And the way I already did the view, it also works for the new.
Yeah.
So they are sharing the same form. So I made it to work for both, for the edit and for the new. Not sure. Should I also take the new one? I don't know. Don't want to take too many. Maybe somebody else wants to.
It doesn't seem that we're running out of stories. And from what I saw on the partner, with the partner model, it seems that if the same person or the same team handles edit, update, and new and create, there's probably less kind of a mishmash of a code, but a more consistent style.
Right.
Fill your boots.
Yep. All right, Craig, you spoke up.
I'll have to remember to keep quiet.
That's right.
I've been working a little bit on OSRA 366, and that's chipping away quite nicely. There's nothing blocking me.
Sorry, can you tell me what 366 is?
That's the your performance filter thing.
Oh, right. Yeah. Is that in the sprint?
No, but we said we'd want it the sooner the better, and in next sprint at the latest. So.
Okay. All right. Viv, let's go to you.
Yeah, alrighty. I've got a couple of things. First of all, I left you a message on that commit history squash, mainly because I am not going to be able to work on that further to meet your priority deadline. And so anyway, I left the message in GitHub, so you can view that. That's the first thing.
Okay.
Second thing is my schedule. I'll only be able to code on holidays, basically. That is, join the Scrum on holidays. And I'll only be able to code on weekends. And I actually spoke to our lead developer on Friday, so this is kind of when all of this came about. So I'll still be able to push up to GitHub, get your critiques and I'd like to be able to, if something is not 100% completely ready, to meet your priority deadlines so that it doesn't hold anyone else up on the team. I'd like to hand it off to whoever can handle that. So are you okay with that? Is the team okay with that? Because my schedule has changed because of what's going on with me at work.
I think we should be able to handle that as long as, as long as you don't take on any time-critical tasks.
Exactly. And I'll make sure not to do that. I mean, I'll work with you guys on that.
Yeah, I think that should be fine. Unless somebody else has another opinion.
No, I think that's cool. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. I don't want to slow everyone up because of it, but my time, during the week is really kind of crunched now because my team is losing our lead developer, so it's pretty intense. That second thing. The other one is that I set up the Rails. Remember I told you I got that book, that Rails RSpec testing? Mm-hmm. So I've set that entire environment up. It's working beautifully. I'm starting with model spec tests, and that really has everything. So I hope to get much better and fast with my testing once I go through that. I've also heard of, and I wanted to ask the team if they've heard of Rails Composer. It's a Rails apps project, and it has a lot, and I can put in the URL. It looks pretty awesome. It shows you testing for OmniAuth, for authentication, for authorization. It does testing for Bootstrap front end and what was the other one? Foundation front end. It looks really awesome. Have you guys heard of it?
No, not me, no.
No, I didn't never use it.
Anyway, I will definitely be looking into it because it looks like, especially for someone who's into, trying to get very fast on testing, it would be very useful. The kind of program that the book follows, it's using Ruby 2.2, Rails 4.2, and RSpec 3.1.7. He doesn't do any views testing, but he does controllers models. He uses Capybara. He does not believe in using Cucumber. So I'll probably have to go elsewhere to get some Cucumber testing, experience with that. But all the rest is in place, and basically is what this team uses. So that's why it was so important for me to kind of get that in place. So that's it.
Cool. Any resources that you've found useful, Viv? We'd be really interested in knowing about.
Oh, let me give you. I mean, I thought it was awesome, but all of you, I mean, you're doing, Andre and Christian are doing testing of facades. I mean, they're really way more advanced than I am. But this looks like it would be very useful because we're doing UI with Bootstrap, so I wanted to get some experience with that. And we're going to be, I don't have experience with OmniAuth, authorization and authentication. So I wanted to get some experience with that, especially since, if I'm still doing the authorization, authentication.
Authorization.
Huh?
OmniAuth shouldn't give you authorization, as far as I understand. This is just authentication.
Yeah, exactly. OmniAuth for. I'm sorry. OmniAuth? Hold on a second. OmniAuth for authentication, and let me get the exact page because they had about 10 different apps, and it was so many. And I just looked at it briefly. I didn't really go into it. Hold on a second. Rails apps. It was here. Hold on a second. Yeah, there it is. It was OmniAuth for authentication, also Devise. That was it. OmniAuth and Devise for authentication. And then it also used Devise with roles for authorization, and then Pundit. I've never heard of Pundit. I know authorization. I think, Andre, you were talking about using can for authorization.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have that. They use Pundit, and this is the first time I've heard of actually using Pundit.
Okay.
But I didn't realize Devise could do both authentication and authorization.
Oh, it can.
Yeah. So I mean, there was just stuff that it was showing. It looked really neat, and the front end, because that UI is really, I thought it was really beautiful. The UI that you showed us, Nick, last week. So I definitely wanted to make sure that I got some experience testing Bootstrap and Foundation front end.
Ooh, are we testing that?
Well, we're going to be testing the UI, aren't we?
I don't know.
Huh?
Well, we have some view specs, and we'll be writing integration tests.
Yeah, yes, but not the bootstrap stuff, right?
Well, I'll check it out. Let me not speak too quickly. Once I check it out, I'll be able to fill you guys in. But you know.
Yeah, we're only.
Is what I'm saying.
Whatever you learn is valuable anyway. So that sounds great.
Yeah. So it took a while. I mean, I know it doesn't seem like much because you're all way more advanced than I am, but it took quite a while for me to get that up and running, that test environment. I was fighting with Mac for about a year before I finally decided to switch to Linux. And with Linux, setting up Rails and Ruby was just like magic. It was so simple. You know, so I'm really, you know, it'll be very helpful for me to have this, you know, kind of experience with a lot of testing. So that's it. Thank you.
Sounds good. Okay, so I'll just wrap up quickly by saying that what did I do? I did just a bit of code review today, and I also pushed up what sort of my idea of what I thought facades would do for us. And that's a separate pull request from the one that Christian had mentioned earlier that he and Andre worked on together, so we can compare and contrast between the two of them and maybe decide which approach to take. In the case of partner, maybe neither, but maybe in the future controllers it'll become more relevant. And I think that's it. Well, I had a pull request merged for something the client had requested for making the agent mandatory for each sponsor. And now that that's in place, I'm going to try to push it up to staging and then to production quickly to make sure that there aren't any invalid records being created, especially on production, before that safeguard is put into place. And I think that's it for me.
Ooh, can I add something?
Please.
You remember that filter for cities, for orphans, where we did not have unique cities? So I keep pestering the active admin community, or basically one person who is very active in the active admin GitHub account. So I just wrote them the question about our problem. Well, rephrasing it slightly, but gave the basically the same problem with the filter, that we are accessing another model and we're trying to grab the cities out of it, and they are not unique. So I've just received a reply, which I will try to test. But I mean, a minute ago, I didn't have any idea how to approach this problem. Now I get an idea which I can test. So yeah, that's progress.
So Craig, is that is what you're working on too, isn't it?
Oh.
Yeah, but we said we were going to just go for text field, didn't we?
Not the drop-down?
No, because once they get to a certain number of orphans, it's going to be too awkward, we feel. You'll have a select box with
cities. So you don't want to have cities in your in your drop-down box. You want to actually input the cities.
Well, it'll be a text match. So if you put in, I don't know, OND, it'll show you any city with those 3 contiguous letters anywhere in the city name.
It will search while you type.
Oh, will it do even that?
No, it's not Ajaxing. Not for the active admin. Not for the active admin one.
Oh, are you going to? Are you rather doing this with active admin, searching for any combination of letters?
Yep.
Okay, so you're using right. And does it work already?
Yep.
Oh, cool. Okay. Well, good.
But I mean, if if the select thing, if you can get that working, let's have a look at it, because if it's something that's interesting you, it's just, I think as they're not going to just stick cities in there, they're going to stick regions and towns, and it's not a definitive city field, is it?
Well, it was supposed to be a city field, but your filter, is it going to search for by multiple fields?
Well, no. What I'm saying is that we have no guarantee that they're going to put a city in that field, are they?
Isn't there?
I don't know.
Well, what are you thinking, Nick? What's your guarantee that they'll put a city in there?
Well, sure.
But what
I'm saying is, when I fill an address in for signing up for a web account, you know, we always get street, city, and region, and a city in England is never applicable for those things. So I put the town that I live in, not the city, and city doesn't necessarily translate to a city in every geographical region that you use. I mean, in England, you would put your street, then the town that you're in, and then the county that town is in. So city is never really used as a city when you're filling in those fields. So I don't see that necessarily being a small selection.
Well, yeah. The selection may be large.
And then I mean, we're talking about potentially having 2,000 rows there. Now, if we filter that down to unique, I mean, there could be 100 or 200 feasibly in a drop-down list. I don't think it'll be usable, which is why I went for the text box approach. But if people think differently, you know,
well, here's my question: can't we do that filter drop-down within some other model? Does it necessarily have to be used for cities, since cities is so big? You know, such a large space. Can it be used for a smaller section, or is it only? You know what I mean?
Well, we do use it in other places where it's smaller, and we are using it at the moment because we've, but we've not noticed it being an issue because we normally have a very small subset of data. But when Nick put, how many did you put? 1,200.
1,200. Yeah.
Orphans in. Did you pull that drop-down box down?
I can do it right now. Yeah. Well, it's gonna take a while for
it to load.
Yeah. Well,
I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it.
To wake up.
Yeah, for the Heroku to wake up. But yeah, hold on.
But now they are not grouped, right?
Sorry, say it again.
Now you have like 1,200.
Yeah, it's an extreme example because Fake is creating less duplicate records than you would see in real life, but it kind of illustrates.
But at the moment, we are going to be looking at a non-working filter, right, which does not group the unique cities. It shows all the duplicates, all the cities.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So, but it's more extreme than we would see, but we will still see a very big drop-down list when we go to however many.
Right. Okay, so keeping in mind that this is wildly unreal. Okay, that's it.
So you clicked it and we're waiting?
You can't see it?
Where's the drop-down? We just see a list.
Okay, let me share my screen differently, and then hopefully you'll be able to see everything. Okay, let's try it again.
Oh, okay. Very Arabic.
Yeah. Now, mind you, these are 1,200 records that are essentially clones of each other, except for their name, to avoid the uniqueness validation. So
the city is the same?
So the city's name is the same in every single case. So this is 1,200 repeats of the same string. Now, even if, in this case, if we manage to call unique on it, there will be just a single one. But even if they use city to mean city, how many cities are in Syria?
Well, if they are arranged alphabetically, I hope it's possible in Arabic. I just don't know which is easier, to type a combination of letters hoping to hit a particular city, like knowing, or opening the drop-down and seeing there's all the available cities that you have in an instance.
Well, that could be. Yeah, I mean, I was on board with text box when we discussed it. Perhaps we can go back to the client with this question, because if well, again, all they can tell us is kind of the current situation. They can't predict the future, but they may be, if they tell us that they will have about 2,000 orphans, but they generally come from about 10 cities, then a drop-down certainly is much more user-friendly.
And are there cities in a province? Is that it? A province has multiple cities?
Presumably.
Sort of like a town and a county?
Something like that, I think.
Okay.
But the cities drop-down is not going to change dependent on the province.
No.
That's smart.
No.
Because it makes more sense to choose the province, and then once you have a province, you have a much smaller subset of cities to choose from. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The province is the partner's province, not the orphan's province necessarily.
Wow.
They might not be referring to the same geographical location.
So we filter orphans by the partner's province.
Is that how it works? Will they know that? Do they know that? Because I wouldn't know that.
That's what they want.
Okay. So then that means the province and the city won't really match. The province will be for the partner, but the city will be for the the province will be for the sponsor, but the city will be for the orphan, right?
The province is for the partner that supplied the orphan list, and then the city is for the orphan, and this is the city of origin. I don't know how OSRA operates. Perhaps, for example, if you consider the case of a displaced orphan that goes from city A to city B, is the partner that's supplying the list, is he on the ground in city A or in city B?
I think, okay, this is just my 2 cents, but based on how you have that filter, situated right now, it looks like, you find the gender of the orphan, you find the province the orphan is in, and then you find the city the orphan is in. There's nothing here saying this is for the sponsor. And it makes sense that, it's the city within the province. It doesn't make sense to have the province and city be dislocated, Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You need parity in the data. You need consistency in how you're calling the data with the filters.
We should maybe call it partner province code.
Yeah, and then orphan city of origin, because they're two it looks like they may not be the same. The province and the city will be completely different. They won't match.
Okay, I think that's a valid point. I'm going to create a task in Jira just to change the titles of these two drop-downs, or these two filters, but the question of drop-down box or text box is still open.
We can try to do both, then merge the two pull requests, and show this to the client and ask them to choose, or to keep both.
Yeah, I feel like at this point it might be difficult even for them to choose, because with 49 orphans, the last time I checked in a database, they'll probably take the drop-down box without thinking too much. Maybe without considering the situation when they have 2,000 orphans.
Well, you can warn them.
Yeah.
That the more orphans, the longer the list of the cities. If this thing is going to work, I have no idea whether it will. But.
Right. Well, actually, so how about we do that? How about, Andre, if you feel like investigating this, you have a look into it, and if it still doesn't work, then it doesn't sound like we have an option anyway.
Yeah. I still feel like it's nice to have the whole list of the cities or of places where your orphans come from, whether it is in the drop-down menu or whether it is on a separate page. I don't know. But it's nice to sort of, because how would you know which letters to insert? How would you know that you're not overlooking something?
Good question.
Well, what do you mean by overlooking something?
Well, how would you know that you are... Well, I totally don't know the process, how they're going to filter, whether somebody is going to call them and ask them, do you have orphans from this city? And then the person is going to type the name of the city in this input box, in this text box, right, and say yes or no. Or whether they want to, I don't know, quickly see which cities they have the orphans from.
So yeah, one way you have to know what you're looking for, the other way you're just browsing.
Yeah, exactly.
So couldn't they have both? Couldn't you click on something, see the list of all of them, kind of see how everything is typed out, and then choose one, and then go back in?
No, I think if we think this is important, and we think, let's speak up now before we do too much work on it. If we think a drop-down box is the better option, let's not stick for second best.
I don't know if it's necessarily drop-down box if you're going to have, like, 500 cities or whatever, 200 cities. It might be a page listing the cities alphabetically, and then making room for, like, maybe you might have a typo, or you might not know exactly how the city is spelled or something, and then choosing one, being able to see them all, then choosing the one you want, and then going back in. You know what I mean? Like, there might just be a little tooltip, like,
Yeah.
click here to see all the cities. They can still type in your way, Craig, 3 letters or whatever. But then if they need more information, there's a tooltip and they can go to that page and find out. So that they're not always, typing blind. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It seems like it would be most useful to ask the client themselves how they work with this. What do they want? Do they want to see the whole list of the cities, or do they want to just are they going to know what they're filtering for? Are they going to know the name of the city? Then the text box would be probably the best option.
Okay, let's ask them then. Yeah, and Craig, regarding what you said, not settling for second best, I share the sentiment, but the problem is that we've tried on the, first choice for so long and come up empty.
I've got a funny feeling that I could.
Yeah?
Yeah. I don't know until I start fiddling with it, but from what I've done so far, I think maybe I could. And I understand what Viv's saying, and I nearly buy that completely. But the only bit where that doesn't maybe sit comfortably with me is from experience. I don't think people tend to like going to other pages to look stuff up. So if that list was easy to access, I'm all for that, for us having 2 separate things. But if people have to go to a separate page to look something up and then come back to fill in my text field, I'm not sure whether they'll do that, and if that's what they're going to do, whether or not a select box wouldn't just be the right approach, unless we've got some sort of list that we can display in that page that they can scroll down.
I just had this I don't know, let's not call it vision, but this idea of, let's say, a demographics page for orphans where you get, gender category. And let's say you have 1,000 orphans in a database, you have 600 male, 400 female, and then after that you have father category, and then you have, so many with father dead, so many with father alive, so many with father martyr, etc., etc., and that goes on for city, for the partner province code, whatever, and each one of these things is a link. And you click on that and you get taken to the index view that has pre-selected. Yeah. But that's...
That sounds awesome, because it would allow the workers in OSRA to actually get some analytics on their data. So especially if they're counting on like 1,200 orphans, at some point someone's going to ask them, okay, well, where do they come from? They need some statistics, and they're either going to do it themselves in Excel, or the application can help them do it and visualize it, which is the bomb as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm. What happens if you had those broken down into pie charts and you click on the pie chart and it...
Yeah, I mean, like, there's just so many things we could do. It would just be the bomb. And it would give them analytics that they could probably use to get more funding for their project. You know what I mean? I just think it would be awesome.
JavaScripty.
That's quite exciting.
That's why we got you, Andre, isn't it?
I'm not a specialist in JavaScript at all.
Well, you know more about
Angular than
I think
working on
anybody
Angular?
Well, yeah, I'm the one learning Angular because I don't know anything about Angular.
That sounds like a very big backpedal to me.
Yeah, wait. I'm a consultant. I'm the ideas person. All right. Well, I don't know. If people think this is something worth exploring, then at least let's keep it in mind.
It is something worth exploring.
Nick, it's the bomb.
It does. It sounds exciting.
Write this down somewhere and ask the clients for that.
Yeah. Well, we have to be careful, because if we think it's a good idea, there is a danger that they might think it's a good idea, and we're of course on the hook to actually make it happen.
But don't you want to try this? Wouldn't this be interesting for us to try?
We do want to try it, but we maybe need to keep a little bit quiet about it, because we need to be convinced we can do it in our Rails interface before.
Well, yeah, I mean, we don't have to do it right now, but maybe just keep it in the fridge. What is it?
Yeah,
Icebox.
Icebox.
We should be able to do anything.
That's the spirit. Okay. All right.
It is exciting, and I think that's like
it is exciting.
Magical about talking about these things, because you hover around solutions that satisfies, and then someone comes up with a great solution that really is elegant and graceful.
Well, I hope that's what it turns out to be, but I guess time will tell. Okay.
Do you want me to do a little test and see if I can get this in a Dropbox with uniques?
Just a little follow-up on that idea. The demographics page, while it sounds wonderful, the plus of the filters which the demographics page probably cannot reproduce is the combination of filters. Like we want to find the orphans from this place and only females, or something like that.
Well,
sure.
Andre, with your JavaScript skills, can't we have drag and drop for our pie charts?
Oh my goodness, the non-existent JavaScript skills, huh?
Well, or in a sort of more realistic immediate future, let's say that I don't see the two of them necessarily replacing one another, but the two of them being side by side. You can go through the demographics page, or you just go to the general index, and then you do the filters. And even when you go through the demographics page, when you click on, let's say, show me all male sponsors, you end up on the index view that has the filters in place. And so you can further filter from there.
Yeah. Then the filters need to be aware of your previous choice.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's an interesting idea. We need to develop it. Think about it.
We need to write more modular code than we do at the moment. to pull up something like that.
Yeah.
But that's a chat for another.
Yeah. But Craig, in answer to your previous question, I think, yeah, let's. I think both for our own education and for potential use to the client, let's have a look at the Dropbox then.
All righty.
Okay. Okay, is there anything else for the Scrum before we move on to the retrospective?
I have a question.
Sure.
Why in the country list Israel it's excluded?
That's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
So isn't that a mistake?
No, it's not a mistake.
What is excluded?
Israel.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay, no problem.
Well, they probably feel that it's a safe assumption that they won't have any sponsors from Israel.
So they have all the countries in the world except for Israel?
That is correct.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. It took me a few seconds to put it together when I saw it.
Okay, so what's the next item on the agenda?
The next item on the agenda is the retrospective. So let's get right to it. What do we do? I guess we don't close the sprint today, right? We close it tomorrow? Because we should have an active sprint.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming. Okay, so let's just do the retrospective then. Let's go to here, sprint 8 retrospective. Actions from the last sprint were this.
Could you just put the link for the page you're on so that I could just take a look at it, please?
I'm just in Evernote on my computer.
But then these get pasted to
Agile
Ventures
project. That page. Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. I thought that's what you were on.
Let me just find it quickly. Okay, so this is our page with all the summaries of the meetings, and then the link that I'm going to share is specifically for the last retrospective that we had. Okay, so in our standard fashion, let's talk about the bad first, then let's talk about the good, and let's talk about the strategies and the actions. So, the bad. Who wants to get the ball rolling here? What was bad about Sprint 9?
Not enough time.
Not enough time.
Yeah, the New Year holidays are over, so...
Yeah. Well, yeah, this probably can be on the list perpetually, I suppose.
I can't think of anything bad for Sprint 9. I think it's all been pretty good. But one thing that I have a problem with more and more going forward is when I have weeks when I have less time, by the time I've done code review, I've got time for nothing else. That's not bad. It's just the way it is. But
I think you're feeling my pain, Craig.
Yeah, and it's not a complaint. I don't even think it should go in. But it's the only slightly negative thing I can think about the sprint.
Yeah. Well, you know what I think what we can say, maybe, yeah, bad is maybe too strong of a word for it, but the fact is that code review is a bottleneck. Actually, that I'm not sure why it reminds me that there was a message from Brian. He's not in Scrum because he doesn't have sound, but he says that he's still having trouble getting data into a partial for the test. So if Craig, you wrote those specs for the form partial, maybe you can, I don't know, reach out to him and see what he's struggling with.
Okay.
Thanks. Okay, so code review is a bottleneck. Nobody else wants to complain?
I just personally feel that because of the time limits and because of the my engagement in different projects, I do not have, my level of participation in the OSRA project has decreased dramatically, and I'm sad about that. But
You're not the only one.
That is a personal thing. That is not like.
What do you think might happen going forward, Andre?
Well, I'll try to find some time and to work on the available tasks. Probably not on the tasks that are like of primary importance, that are on which other tasks depend. But
okay. And
I second that. Same for me.
Yeah.
And this does not represent your loss of interest in OSRA, does it?
No. I absolutely love how OSRA is run.
Me too.
The code reviews, the scrums, the technical discussions. This is amazing.
It's great having so many people that are so easily pleased.
and I. Looking at the OSRA projects from a distance now, I completely retract my complaint that it is going slow, because I realize that there are so many messages on the Slack board that are OSRA related. Probably OSRA can easily be like the fastest going project now in the whole Agile Ventures.
Yeah, I would like to see some statistics about that. Agile Ventures projects.
Does that mean we're the most productive or the gobbiest?
Yeah, I think that just means we yak a lot.
Yeah, that also can be the case. But at least, if not the most productive, then maybe the peakiest, the most strict.
Well, let's hope it's justifiably strict.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me, actually, that's a good. It's, the amount of the coding standard is very high. I'm learning things here that frankly, I haven't really had anyone bring up before. So, the code review might be a bottleneck, but it brings your coding level to, your coding standards to a new level. Let me put it that way.
Okay, so how do I write all of that down? Let's just say the code review is a bottleneck, but at the same time, code review adds value. I don't know, something like that.
Well, would it engender coding excellence?
Oh, engenders coding excellence, wow.
Not to confuse with endangers.
Well, it does that too, I think. Sometimes.
A little from column A, a little from column B. Okay. Well, if there is no more bad, is there more good? What do people think about our progress as far as this sprint was Rails, Rails, Rails? How are we doing?
Does Jira have anything to say about the progress? Does it measure anything now?
Not really, because none of these are point stories, so we won't have a
There's no velocity.
Velocity, thank you, Nick.
It looks weird though that you can only measure your progress, that you can only measure something only when you have like only when you're working on the client stories, on the user stories.
Yeah, I can see why that's there. But the other problem as well, which makes us look even worse, is that when we first started, we underestimated our user stories. So, so we had quite a big velocity, and then we took on quite a bit of technical debt, and all the things that we've taken on subsequently to fix that technical debt is effectively has no velocity, rather than give everything the correct velocity in the first place and it take longer to do.
So yeah, we artificially inflated velocity originally, and now it's given us 0.
So you know that you're doing something, you know that you're sending pull requests, and you're doing code reviews, and you're doing lots of stuff, but there is no way of measuring this?
Well, we can do something as simple as go to GitHub, for example.
Counting lines of code?
Maybe the lines of code is not the best, but we can look at, where am I trying to go here? Graphs, commits. That we were not at peak, but we're doing pretty well.
So where is this sprint? Where are we?
These weeks? Yeah, these are weeks. So these 2 weeks, this is the sprint.
Okay. Oh.
So it's at least comparable to the sprint that preceded it.
Yeah.
And actually, yeah, in terms of adding and deleting code, we're peaking if you don't count that initial commit that has created the application.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I didn't mean, I guess, when I asked the question if people are happy with the progress, I didn't mean that necessarily in terms of metrics, more in terms of, are you happy with the progress of the project? Are you happy with the progress that you're making on the project?
I'm not, because I'm not making much progress, but that, again, is very personal.
I think I'm happier seeing a slower progress that's more rigorously analyzed than shipping it and worrying about it later.
Yeah. Well, I think we definitely learned our lessons with taking on technical debt, and we try to avoid that at all costs now. So,
how did you get that to be a bar chart and not like a flowing field chart? How did you get that? I'm on Agile Ventures, OSRA graphs, and contributors. Commits. Okay, got it. Sorry.
yeah.
Oh, I did have something to say about how Agile Ventures has affected how I sort of think in Rails. I think this is the first time through Agile Ventures, and I think it's because of the size of the project and the way everything has been namespaced, and the fact that we started with active admin. I've really begun to see Rails as a true framework and to see everything as models. And I think it informs a lot of the way now that there's a little bit more refactoring going on from active admin to Rails. I'm beginning to understand when you refactor the importance of organizing how you approach it. Does that make sense? I've never had so much. I've never thought this complex on this level of complexity when it came to coding in Rails.
Yeah. When it's smaller, it doesn't matter where you stick it, does it?
Exactly, but this is like this is so important.
Well, yeah, that is one of the Rails pillars, convention over configuration. Yeah, you really come to appreciate it if you I guess if you do things more that go beyond just a basic CRUD.
So is the good point that the size of the code base makes you think about architectural choices?
Yeah, we had a point.
Huge.
We had a point about architecture in the last sprint, I think. But so code base, what? Okay.
And I've also learned a whole new respect for testing, like a serious respect for testing, because it'll stop you cold. You know, it's just like testing is so rigorous, and especially the way Nick you like testing. It's very rigorous. I have to say that it's very rigorous.
I still try to find the balance between testing and not over testing, but still covering our butts basically. So I hope I'm not leaning too much one way or the other. Okay, well we don't need to go fishing for any more good. It sounds like we kind of got our bases covered. So what about strategies then? We have Sprint 10 coming up. In the client meeting on Sunday, the client said that they're still filling in data effectively, still kind of familiarizing themselves with the application. They don't have anything. Well, basically, the decision was to hold off on phase one. On phase one. So, given the good and the bad from Sprint 9, and given the fact that we're not launching phase one, at least not immediately, what are our strategies for Sprint 10?
Does that mean we want to continue with the Rails, with the Rails implementation, and maybe starting to look at wireframing out the layout?
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. I mean, we decided that Rails, switching over to Rails was a priority. So, do we continue in that direction?
So, what has already been done? We've done. Have we finished partners?
Not entirely, no.
What do you do on partners?
I've heard that Christian is already working on sponsors.
Oh yeah, and somebody's working on users.
And somebody's working on users, yes.
Yeah, actually, sorry, that's not.
Was it Trovi who was working on users?
Yeah, I believe so. So yeah, partner. What we're waiting for is facades, which is an exploration at this point, and the pagination, which is essentially complete. We just need to clean up the thing that Viv referred to at the beginning. And then at that point, so again, I don't know if everybody is on board or not, Modusem has agreed to act as a product owner for the Rails parts of the application. So he will essentially, once we finish all the tasks, let's say for switching partner over to Rails, he will be the one test driving the application, that entire bit of the application through the UI and making sure that everything is working as it should. And then if he signs off on it, then partners are done, and we're moving on to users and sponsors.
I remember from the experience I had yesterday when Christian showed me the partner facade. I realized that it might be a good idea to decide probably as quickly as possible whether we want to use the facades or not, because now the different architectures are starting to sort of hinder the progress. When you're working on the partner facade story, and then somebody tries to change something in the partner's view, and then you realize that your view needs to behave differently because you're using facades in the view, but the other person didn't know that you're using facades, and so the other person is using just add partners instead of add facade. So to avoid those merge conflicts and to avoid rewriting each other's code, it might be a good idea to sort of.
Well, in that case, I mean, so first of all, when I actually sat down and I coded the facade for partner, my feeling was that we might not necessarily use facades universally, because if a controller is fairly straightforward, its interface with the view is minimal. It essentially initializes a single variable and passes it to the view, and there are no associations that it creates, no additional variables that it passes, then there is little need for facade in that case. In the case of partner, there's maybe a minimal use case for a facade.
When it loads the provinces and the statuses?
Right, yeah. But the show for partner, for now at least, the show action for partner is very simple. It just instantiates the partner and that's it.
The index as well.
But actually, I was thinking about that too, that perhaps in a not that distant future, as part of the partner show page, we will also have kind of like the way we have now panels for sponsors on the user page, the sponsors that are assigned to that user. Perhaps we will bring the partner lists uploaded by the partner into more prominence on the show page for the partner rather than having separately. As things become complex.
Do you keep them uploaded?
Sorry, do we keep them what?
You're saying that you want to keep the lists uploaded by the partner. Does it mean that you that you keep the files themselves, Excel files, or just you want to show which orphans have been uploaded by each partner?
Well, we do keep the Excel files currently.
Okay.
But I'm thinking something more along the lines of, let's say, this partner has 3 partner lists, 3 orphan lists, and from this list, let's say right on the partner show page, you would have these lists displayed, at least not the list itself, but like a table essentially, 1 row per list, where you have the list's OSRA ID, if it gets an ID, I don't recall, the date on which it was uploaded, and maybe how many orphans were in that list, something like that. And then you can click through to that to see more detail. So anyway, my point with all of this was that for the moment, when I think about the partner controller, there doesn't seem to be a strong impetus to use the facades there, but at the same time, when I start thinking about the sponsors controller, where the sponsor displays orphans on its show page and then also pulls in a few other instance variables in its new and edit form, there may be more use for a facade there. So I don't know if we need to decide on a universal architecture when it comes to facades, but we can take it on a controller by controller basis.
Well, what we were doing in the partners controller, we were loading associations in a private method, weren't we?
Yeah.
So my question then is, I think what started this off was Sandy Metz's belief that you should only ever instantiate one instance variable to pass on to the view. If we think that's overkill, are we going to set an unofficial limit? If it goes above 3, should we think about using a facade, or is it when it hits 5, or is that too simplistic a metric?
Yeah, perhaps. Well, even she says that these are guidelines, not rules, and you can break them if your pair programming partner lets you, or you have a good reason. So I think we have to approach it on a case-by-case basis, I feel. Where in the case of partner, it's 3 instance variables, and that's certainly quite a bit more than 1, but at the same time, introducing the more complex language where you can't just reference partner name, you have to reference facade partner name every single time, that trade-off might not be worth it.
Another option, you know, is to consider something like a decorator pattern.
Yes.
And then you wouldn't have that problem.
Yes. Well, that could be another exploratory pull request basically.
A quick question. Or 3. Is there a working version of this facade pattern that you're all discussing? I'd love to see it if you have it. Maybe you've already seen it. I mean, I'm not sure.
2 of them.
If you go to the pull requests, there's 2 in there being discussed at the moment. I think Nick's is the most recent pull request, and then Christine's got one in there. Partner facade attempt.
So that's that first one, the top one?
Yeah, and then
and what's the other one?
Third from the bottom, partner facade attempt.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
What does the WIP stand for?
Work in progress.
Oh, work in progress. Okay. What does it? How is it different from the rest of the pull requests?
Don't merge. Yeah, primarily I would say don't merge.
Then the green color doesn't make sense at all.
Perhaps. I'm open to suggestions on all of these labels and milestones and whatever else I've recently added on GitHub.
Magenta.
Magenta, yes. Cyan and magenta, yes. I don't know if I can make them blink, but I'll give it a go.
Click here.
Click here, yeah, you've got to put it on there.
Right.
Oh, don't click here.
Oh, rather don't click here.
Okay, let's get back to the subject at hand. What are our strategies for Sprint 10? And let's think about kind of high-level strategies. Are we pushing Rails still? Is that our overall strategy? Yes. Okay, so...
Does that pushing Rails include fleshing out the UI, or is that an additional point?
I'll make it an additional point, but I think at this point it's essentially it's a subtask of this, but perhaps we can make it clear here that
is the UI going to influence the Rails decisions? Like, I'm just wondering which should go first. Like, you do just crude and pure Rails and then you prettify it, or you start working with the UI and then you realize that, oh, I need to do it differently.
Well, I always tend to deliver minimal functionality first and then make it look pretty.
Because it's not just the case of pretty, right? It's the case of having the partials working together and thinking whether you're using Ajax at some point or not.
Yeah.
Well, leaving Ajax to one side, this is when your facade pattern becomes more of an issue.
Also true, yes. Whether you need facades at all, or rather, whether you need facades for partners or not.
Or maybe it's that you're more likely to need them if you've got an index view and then a show on the right-hand side. You maybe is going to bundle a list of partners and a specific partner all into one view.
Well, so in answer to Andrei's question, basically, is which way to approach. My experience, at least so far with OSRA, tells me that we can debate it right now for hours, and odds are we're going to get it wrong. So I would prefer to go ahead and take small deliverable steps, let's say, and with the understanding that at some point, if we significantly rework the UI, that changes to the underlying functionality might be necessary as well.
It's kind of the agile way as well, isn't it?
Oops. Deliverable steps may mean doing all of the models, the views for all of the models, or concentrating on one of them and doing it until we're happy with the UI.
The two of them might not be exclusive. If Partners is finished in terms of its Rails functionality, then somebody is welcome to start making it look good, while other people concentrate on the other models.
Yeah, that's also true. I am remembering of having these fresh memories of this assignment of this homework in CS169, right, with this typo blog, when we realized that they are not using like the typical Rails approach with the edit, new, index, and so on being like different controllers. They tended to stick the different controllers together, which looked ugly and difficult to reason through, but at the same time this was probably useful because they were trying to combine different actions in one, like getting a page that would serve both as an index page and as a show page, something like that.
Yeah. Well, in our case, I don't think, at least thinking of the wireframe that Christopher's come up with so far, I can't think of a situation where we would be reaching across controllers.
So at in that wireframe, if I remember correctly, both the index and the show need to be working basically at the same time.
Yeah. Although I guess we do reach across controllers, because let's say if you're looking at the sponsor, then within the sponsor you have two orphan index views effectively.
And in the orphan index view, you had the orphan show view.
Oh yeah, sorry, but I mean orphan index and orphan show are in the same controller, but sponsor show.
You mean across controllers? Yeah. I didn't when I was speaking. I didn't mean the different controllers. I meant different actions within one controller.
Right. Yeah,
but you may not be reaching across controllers. Maybe say for example, you do have a facade, and in that facade you have a group of models that you want to render. You're going to reach across, and you're going to maybe pull a partial view out from somewhere to render, but you're not necessarily going to interfere with the controller.
Yeah.
Until you click the link or hit the action button or whatever it is that then passes control over to that specific controller.
Can you remind me whether we discussed this or not, whether we have any agreement about this or not? The mock-up that Christopher drew for the orphans, what RESTful action does it correspond to? Is this a show that also works as an index, or is it an index that also works as a show? What are we going to have in our URL?
I think you have an index that shows you the table on center, if you like, and some boilerplate on the right-hand side where an orphan might go, an empty orphan or whatever it is that needs to go there. And then when you click on an orphan, that renders the show view, which also happens to show the index on the left-hand side, but an orphan on the right-hand side.
Oh, that's what you. But
and maybe you share templates. But the controllers are still different. And then if you Ajaxify it in the future, then we'll have to review that. Or are people thinking different about a different approach?
So Craig, what you're saying is that those two actions are actually calling the same view template and just populating different parts of it. So the index controller populates the left side of the view page, and the show controller populates the right side of the view page.
But the controller kicks in when you send a request to the server, right? So it's not like we are sending 2 requests to 2 different controllers. We are accessing one of the controllers.
Well, say you go to your index view, you will get you'll create a partners variable, which will hold all the paginated partners for that page, and you will have an empty partner, and then you will render a view that will show the index and an empty partner on the right-hand side. When you click on Show, you'll go to the Show controller, which will render the same partners, fill in the same partners instance variable, your paginated partners, but it will populate a partner into partner, and then it will render the same view.
What's the point of showing the empty partner? Are you basically...
Well, you're going to have to show something. I'm not saying that it has to be...
No, definitely. I'm just trying to understand, when you're saying that you're showing an empty partner on the right-hand side, are you basically combining the index with the new view? Or what?
Well, you will have a master view template that you call, and that template will call other partials.
Can we see, is it possible to see that UI again? Because I've only just started thinking about it, and I have the same questions as Andre has.
Did that ever get uploaded to...
It's on the ticket. It's on one of the OSRA board tickets.
If anybody can guess which one, then please shout it out.
There's no way to see if there's an attachment on a file. There's no little paper clip.
Wow.
Ah, there.
And now how do I... There we go. Let's shrink it.
There. Okay.
So the answer to the question is that when you go to the... When you initially go to the index view, you are in the index action, which has the partners plural instance variable, but does not have a partner singular instance variable, which is why this is blank. But then when you click on a single record, you go to the show, which now has both the plural and the singular partner instance variables that populate this and that respectively.
Can I ask a quick question then?
Sure.
What's the point of having an index if it doesn't really do anything? Why not just have show, and show if you are placing the orphans in some kind of order, like alphabetical order, why not show the first orphan in that alphabetical order on the right-hand side and have an index on the left-hand side?
Why not? Sure.
Then the question is, do we have an index action at all? Or when we are doing index, we are either redirecting to the show immediately, saying that we want to redirect to the show of a particular, like the first, alphabetically first orphan, or...
The reason I like having an index in a show is that they're the same at the moment, with the exception that if it's an index, you don't have a singular partner variable. But when you go to Ajax it, then different parts of the view are going to make an XML HTTP request to whatever controller they need, and then be rendered when they get the response back. And that's going to be different depending on what you're clicking. Whether you're clicking your pagination links to take yourself through the index, or whether you're clicking on a row in the index table to show you a sponsor on the right.
I think ultimately, though, Andrew, you will agree that this isn't a major decision.
Oh,
right.
well, it's not major. I'm just wondering if somebody starts creating this page, it's an inevitable question that somebody needs to ask. And another, probably, when we are creating the, like Craig suggests, the empty view on the right hand side. So we have all the fields which are named, so the names are there, but the information is not in there. Does it mean that we need to sort of test every variable, like saying if at partner dot or at orphan dot name, then print it out? If at orphan date of birth, then print it out, or not? Because otherwise, if you're not, if you are saying that you can have the instance variable, or you may not have an instance variable, you see what I'm saying? Either there should be a lot of ifs.
Well, you could have two partials, and you could say if at partner render.
Or you can have two partials, right? Which, yeah, like you have a particular partial for index which does not expect anything, an empty partial, and a separate partial for show.
Or even more fine-grained than that, you could have two tiny little partials just to show the sponsor. One when there isn't a sponsor, with just the information and nothing. Sorry, just the field titles and no information shown. And then you can have another one that actually calls on the sponsor attributes, and then in the index you would just say if at sponsor render this partial, else render the blank partial. Have I made a pig's ear of explaining that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I understand.
I understood that.
Okay.
Okay, so if we, if these two are our strategies, continue the switch to Rails and begin implementing this wireframe, then what can we say as actions? Now, from the last retrospective, what we had as actions were finish implementing partner, which we have, I think we can say we've done basically, and determine the next models. And in fact, we've started work on user and sponsor already. So what are we doing in terms of actions? Since partner is almost implemented, shall we say that we will begin implementing the wireframe for partner?
Yep.
Okay.
Menu. Or is that part of the wireframe?
I suppose it would be, yeah, it's all part of the wireframe, and then menu and the navbar up top and whatever, they all fall as subtasks or what have you within
Isn't that the graphical user interface that you're going to be implementing from his wireframe?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is for Christopher's UI, in case anybody's wondering.
Is it a G or a C?
That's a C.
What's a C? CUI?
Christopher.
Oh, okay. Christopher's user interface?
That's right. Well, please come up with a better way to refer to this.
No, begin implementing GUI from Christopher's wireframe. That's how I would put it anyway.
GUI from CWF.
You insist on abbreviations?
Yeah, absolutely.
They do like their three-letter acronyms here, Viv.
Yeah.
The acronym for the outsider would be WTF.
That's right.
Yeah.
Say finish user and sponsor. Now there is a bit of a wrinkle to this, I guess, is that what we agreed on with the client is that next Sunday we will talk about phase 1. So there is a possibility that they will come up with some fairly urgent things that they want implemented, and so we will have half of sprint dedicated to Rails and half to something else. So, but I think we can still write down these actions and carry them out as far as we can take them.
Yeah, we're agile. We can cope with that.
Or so we claim. Anything else in terms of actions? Is there maybe at some point, so whether it's next week or at the very end of the sprint, we do need to start planning phase. This is discussions with the partner, prioritizing things, making sure that we understand the new requirements, the new features, etc. Discussing the order in which they will be implemented and so forth before we officially start phase 1.
Are we in their hands in terms of that at the moment? It's not us slowing this part of the process down, is it?
Sorry, say it again. It's not.
So I guess what I'm trying to find out is that the lack of knowledge about what we need to do for phase 1 is contingent on the client rather than us.
Yes. What I've done is, after the client meeting that we had, I sent them. I pulled out all the tasks that we had in Jira and cross-referenced them against Pivotal. So everything that was entered initially with all the assignments to phase 1, phase 2, or unassigned, broken down into those categories, and I sent it to them to review, to make sure that, or basically to see what their priorities are, and if any new features have come up since then. But basically, yeah, we don't have anything to start on until we hear from them definitively what they want to see in phase 1.
Cool.
Well, I think that sounds pretty good to me. 3 actions. That's actionable. Does anybody else have anything to add at this point?
You know what? I had this idea when Viv was speaking about her find of Rails Composer. I think we talked about that a little bit, and then we sort of dismissed this. Is there, like, or do we need, or do we want to have some kind of a collector of all our finds and ideas and links, like a GitHub wiki? Or something like that, because these links that you send us in the Scrum, they are definitely temporary, but then you might want to go back to them and to review them, or if somebody else comes and joins the project, maybe you would want to sort of refer them to these links. Like, do we need like some kind of a repository of the information, of the useful information?
I would like to see that very much, yes. And as far as I'm concerned, the Agile Ventures website isn't really cutting it in that department.
Is that worth mentioning on this survey?
Yeah, quite possibly. I haven't looked at it at all yet, but yeah, I think so.
I thought the survey was just for WSO and it wasn't for OSRA.
Yeah, but that's the Agile Ventures site.
So they're asking how they can make the site better for us. So yeah, I just think that in terms of, something like that, it's if we just want to have like a collection of random, links and what have you, just jot down notes, it's both too rigid and too heavyweight for stuff like that.
By it you mean the Agile Ventures?
Agile Ventures, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
starting off a wiki page in.
Sorry,
Andre.
Oh, go, Craig. You were
No,
saying.
I'd finished. I was just saying maybe it's a wiki page on GitHub.
Yeah, yeah. I was saying that going to Nick's words about the random collections of links and notes. They don't have to be random. They definitely shouldn't be random. They need to be organized somehow.
Sure. Fair enough. Yeah. I would prefer not to do it within the confines of what we currently have with the Agile Ventures website, though. Like I said, I'm not a fan of Mercury Editor at all, so the less time I spend in it, the better. And then this structure with documents and sub-documents, it doesn't work for me personally. But if somebody wants to explore, how to set it up, for example, within Agile Ventures or within GitHub wikis, or I don't know, some kind of shared notebooks, then by all means.
What options do we have? Can we just brainstorm, like, where can we go and look for places to organize the information? GitHub Wiki looks like a very obvious place to go to.
Well, Google Docs, I suppose, would be the sort of default kind of throw anything at it.
Is it organizable, the Google Docs?
Well, folders and files, I suppose. That's as far as it goes.
Has anyone used the GitHub wiki? Do they know how it works? Has anyone had experience with it?
I have not used GitHub Wiki. Does everybody have access to the wiki? Do we all have editing privileges?
I believe so.
I think, yeah, for anything open source, I think everybody is open to the public. But
so basically, anybody can go to any open repository and start messing around with the wiki page?
Well, does anybody want to do that right now? Try it out.
I mean, the only thing is that I think only team members should be able to write in it, not just anybody.
Yeah, me too.
You know what? I've seen this create the first page on so many GitHub pages that I can't believe that it's in any way limited access.
Okay.
But Andre, Christian, Viv, if you want to try it out, Craig and I have admin privileges to the repo, but well, you're team members too.
The wiki page and see whether we have the necessary privileges.
Yeah. Or what I can do is I can just sign out of GitHub and then.
Let's see. Wiki. Yeah, create the first page, and I'm in. Yeah. Welcome to the OSRA wiki. It seems like, yeah, I can.
Okay, but without signing in, I don't have access to it.
Yeah, but that probably means that you signed out of GitHub and you are not a GitHub user, so that makes sense.
Right. So what else? We said GitHub wiki. Well, Agile Ventures, of course, the site. That's an option. Google Docs, Dropbox.
Confluence.
Have you used it?
No, it's an option.
Right.
But is it free? Is it open source? I didn't think it was free.
Well, neither is Jira, but because our project's open source, I think I would have to.
Because I have used Confluence, and it is really an excellent tool.
Mm.
And you can organize things into spaces. It's a really excellent tool.
Okay. That's the first positive vote that we've had for anything so far.
And you can also, allow certain people to use the tool. I'm just afraid that with the wiki, anybody could go in and just erase it, right? I mean, anyone that belonged to GitHub could just go in and do anything. I wouldn't. That wouldn't be my first choice if it's that open.
It's not like people would do that.
I have a
funny
feeling it's
for a client. I don't know.
Everything's done as a Git commit, isn't it? So I think you can roll.
Yeah, I suspect that since it's within the structure of GitHub, that they have some kind of version control on it.
I like the idea of the GitHub Wiki because you don't need anything extra. You can just start organizing and collecting all the information in there. But if Confluence is good with, like, gives you all the different additional features, and if somebody knows how to ask Atlassian to give us the access to it,
correct.
How serious? Well, it'll take a bit of work. How serious are we? Is it?
I'm fine with GitHub Wiki. I'm like, I don't want to make more work unnecessarily.
Well, no, but I mean, no, I don't mind if it's what people
Can
want.
we try it out? Because with Jira, we had you can get 30 days for free, I think, can't you?
Let me find out. Let me do a bit of research and find out. Okay. In terms of the GitHub Wiki, you have revisions, and you can roll back to revisions.
Mm-hmm.
And you can compare revisions.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you would have on normal like Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing with the GitHub Wiki is I've always seen them as kind of, they're, I don't know, mini Stack Overflow for that particular repository. How do I do this? How do I, at least the ones that I've seen and that I found useful, they've been more about, what does this project do and how do I interact with it, rather than, here's a cool idea I found. What does everybody think about it? But I guess that's not saying that.
Let me do some legwork and see what's involved.
Okay. Has anybody used Basecamp? Rails people?
Yes, I've used Basecamp. That's also an excellent tool. Also very useful. You kind of make circles and put people into it depending on what you're discussing, what the topic is.
That's also fee-based, isn't it?
Yeah, and I don't think there's a free option there, period. I think there is maybe for teachers and students or something like that, but otherwise you get 60 days trial, and after that it's paid. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So Confluence and GitHub Wiki seem to be the two front runners.
Yeah.
So let's maybe all of us independently have a look at GitHub Wiki, because we all have access to that, and then if any one of us can get a free trial of Confluence, then we can explore it independently. But Craig, whenever you get a chance to, maybe you can set up something that would be like a...
Yeah, let me try and find out about that. I've put that on my to-do list.
Okay. Does Confluence integrate with Jira? Since they're both by Atlassian, do they sort of work together, or are they two?
I believe so.
Okay.
They must.
Then I think either Confluence, because it integrates with our project board, or GitHub Wiki because it integrates with our code repository.
Yeah. I mean, Confluence would, to me, it almost seems like a more natural fit, because if we have a discussion about something, then if there is a button that says create a task based on this discussion, then that's maybe more ideal than having it in GitHub.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's explore.
Okay. How did you find out that they allow free access for open source projects? Do they advertise it anywhere?
Pardon?
Does Atlassian advertise anywhere that they allow free access for open source projects for either Jira or Confluence?
Yeah, I think it's like common knowledge, but you have to apply. It's not like a... I don't know how difficult it is on Oh, what was the one we was using before, Nick?
Pivotal?
Pivotal. I don't know how difficult it is on Pivotal, but you have to make an application to Atlassian, and then they review it, and then they decide whether you get the.
Yeah. Well, I would expect that since we've qualified for Jira, there would be a more maybe streamlined process.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Confluence looks super nice.
In fact, Craig, I thought that. Well, my memory is probably not serving me well here, but I thought that what you got free access to, if you qualified, was this Atlassian cloud, and that included kind of whatever they have in the cloud.
Wow.
Confluence is in the cloud.
Yeah.
I mean, you can have it as a software, but it's in the cloud.
Yeah, I'll need to speak to them. I'll need to find out what we need to do.
Okay. Well, is there anything else? No. In that case, let's finish the sprint tomorrow and start a new one. And as always, this retrospective, these notes, I'll put them up on Agile Ventures. And I usually post a link in Slack as soon as I do that. And I guess that's it.
Two very brief questions, not necessarily related to OSRA. One question about Agile Ventures. Do you know where they keep all the links for Hangouts? Because I saw that, well, there is obviously like the link for the events, but it shows just some of the Hangouts, probably some of the most recent. But there was also a page, I guess, where it accumulated all of the links and you could access that page as well. Do you know the URL of that page?
I'm afraid I really don't use it enough to know the answer.
Okay. And then another question. Has anybody, probably Craig, since he is constantly tinkering with the virtual machines and different kinds of Linuxes, has anybody used Docker for any purposes?
No, it's on my to-do list.
Is it? Because I'm slightly confused about what it does. Is it like in any way? Can it serve as a not a supplement, but a replacement for Vagrant? Like, can you have your OSRA app inside Docker on your local machine?
Well, Vagrant supports Docker, so you could create a Docker container with your OSRA implementation in it, and then you could use Vagrant to launch that and work in it.
I was sort of thinking about some solutions that would be lighter weight than Vagrant, because Vagrant is a full-fledged virtual machine, right? Although without the
no, Vagrant isn't the virtual machine, is it? VirtualBox is a virtual machine.
Well,
Vagrant,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So
you are saying that
supports,
Vagrant? Oh, yeah.
Vagrant supports Docker, so rather than launching a VirtualBox instance, it'll launch a Docker instance.
Oh, I see.
And I keep meaning to play with it, but it just keeps going down to the bottom of the list.
Okay. Because I'm very curious about it, but again, like with your situation, I'm not even sure whether it is applicable for like having the whole application inside the Docker.
Well, I think you could do.
Because you would need to put Postgres inside Docker. You would need to put Ruby, RVM. You'll need to put all this stuff inside that.
Yeah.
But if it is possible, then it probably might be worth it, because that should be faster than than Vagrant with VirtualBox.
Let me just post the link in the group chat.
Oh. Okay, I'll have a look.
So, Craig, I looked at Atlassian services for open source, and at the time that you applied for the open source license, you probably would have done this selection.
Yeah, we'll need it attached to the same accounts, won't we? So I'll need to go speak to them through a different medium and see how we get Confluence added on.
But you don't think you would have ticked off Confluence here?
Well, we would have just checked Jira at the time, wouldn't we? Because that's all we were interested in.
Yeah. Okay.
They're not all ticked by default, so I wouldn't have gone down and ticked more than I needed, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. Yeah. But it sounds like.
I think we can have it. I think it's just it took a week or two to come through last time, if I remember rightly. So.
Okay.
It's something to play with.
Sure, yeah. We can join Skype and Microsoft and Facebook, apparently.
So,
is that a good thing? Is that a club you want to be in?
Don't go overboard.
Definitely. Hey, it's Microsoft or nothing.
And Facebook.
and Facebook, yes. Yeah.
Oh, and Adobe as well. My goodness. The only absent player in here is Apple, I guess.
Well, they probably just didn't make the cut. Yeah. Who compares to Facebook these days? All right. Okay, so it sounds like we're done. And I'll see you tomorrow.
Take care, guys.
All right. Bye.
See you.